My brother who recited the Quran, he recited in the very beginning by saying, Inni Abdullah. Put that there for a minute. I'm going to come back to that. If the most popular name on earth is Muhammad, I'm going to ask you a second question. What name is most beloved to God? Is it Muhammad? It's not what the Prophet said. What name? Ahabbu illallah, most beloved to God. What name? Abdullah. Abdullah means the servant of God. The most beloved name to God is Abdullah, Abdul Rahman, the servant of the beneficent, the servant of God. Why? Because Abdullah, if you study the Quran, there's a verse what the French would call raison d'être, the very purpose of life. مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. God said, I have not created spirits or human beings except to worship me. It is God's right to be worshipped by everybody. Jinn, spirits, and human beings to worship God. Who must worship God? Everybody from the prophets on down. Because there's one thing that's non-negotiable in Islam, and that is God is one, and everyone must worship God the Almighty. Now, the Christians refer to Jesus as the Word. And brothers and sisters, the more I study, the more I've come to the conclusion that there are many facts that Muslims and Christians especially agree upon, but where we differ is the interpretation. I'll give an example. Christians teach that Jesus is the Word. Muslims absolutely believe that Jesus is the Word of God. It's called Kalimatullah, the Word of God. And there's many evidences from Quran and from Sunnah. It's called in the Quran, Kalimatullah wa ruhu minhu. He's the Word of God and a Spirit from Him. Now, what do you mean as a Muslim that Jesus is the Word of God? Since you say that Jesus didn't have a father, how did He come into existence? Allah said, Kun, be. And Jesus was. And Mary was pregnant. And she carried Him. Now, Jesus was born from a virgin. Some might interpret it to mean that because He's God, therefore His birth must be a different way other than the regular birth or regular coming into existence. Interpretation. Now, there's a miracle in the Quran that the Quran mentions that you don't find in the Torah and you don't find in the Injil. And that is when Jesus was born, Jesus spoke from the cradle as a baby. And when Jesus was born, the people, they looked at Mary accusingly because they knew she didn't have a husband. How could you have this? And your father and your mother's not a prostitute. How could you have a baby without a man? And what did Mary do? She pointed to the baby Jesus. How can we speak to him? He's a baby. How can we speak to him? And Jesus spoke. And Jesus' first words were, Inni Abdullah. Not insignificant. I am the servant of God. I am the servant of God. I am the servant of God. Not the Son of God, not divine. I am the servant of God.